schedule and do. But if you just hate everything on your schedule, it might be time to rethink that schedule. All right. So that's just something that you're going to have to decide for yourself. But it should be fun. It shouldn't be a confining jail, and you need to schedule breaks. You definitely want to schedule breaks. I mean, think of it this way. If you were a boss and you're setting a schedule for your worker, if you give them all tasks they hate with 0 breaks, are that person going to stick around long? They're not, right? They're going to quit. I mean, I know that firsthand. I was a business owner myself. So you want to schedule breaks, and you want to have some fun tasks in there as well. You can't just do all of the hard tasks all day long. Do some tasks that you appreciate, you have fun with, and that you look forward to. Also schedule those breaks. I mean, you can't. It's been proven time and time again. You work so much more productive when you schedule in some breaks. All right, and when you have those breaks, it's actually easier to get around those distractions. The distractions will derail you. You all know this. So you got miscellaneous like emails come in, a Facebook message comes in, which, I get Facebook messages, hundreds of them every single day. And it would be very easily for me to get derailed. But guess what? I typically, especially during trading hours, I'm not even looking at my phone. That's why most of you probably are not going to get a response from me during those trading hours, because I'm staying focused, right? So, put those off until your break time. And your brain it's interesting how your brain works. If you have a break coming up, you'll usually stay on task better and stay focused, and your brain will kind of put off those, distracting thoughts and things of that nature, those daydreams, until your break. All right. So that's a really good way to not get derailed.
All right. And until that break in your schedule comes, right, something that I would suggest is I'll explain it, but it's called the Pomodoro technique, right? And it's just a way of scheduling out your time, right? So that Pomodoro technique is a way to schedule 2 hours of work, right, with small breaks and then some longer breaks in between, right? And it's one of the most effective ways that they've proven to focus on a task at hand for just the right amount of time, right? So if you're spending too long on something, you get distracted. If you don't spend long enough on it, you're not productive, right? So it's kind of in between. So tip number 3 is your production or productive awareness, right? Being aware of how productive you are, right? So it can be kind of hard to stop yourself from getting carried away with distracting thoughts, right? Like David said, putting your phone on mute when you're trading or whatever it is, even if, this isn't like a productivity thing, but going to dinner, right? And being present with your family or your spouse or your significant other, right? Just not, you're not focused on them. Right. And that's not quality time. It's the same thing with your work, right? You're distracted, you're checking your phone, you're running laundry in the background, right? And you're doing a bunch of different things. Nothing is getting 100%. And it's been proven so many times. Most humans are not great multitaskers. They literally can't multitask. You think you are. You think you're multitasking. But when they actually look at your brainwaves and stuff, it's literally 50% productivity and 40% productivity. Nothing's getting 90% like you think. Right? You think you're doing everything at 90%. That's not happening, right? So that lack of awareness is the #1 killer of your productivity. And luckily, it's pretty easy to take control of it if you're aware of it and you can use it to your advantage, right? And that awareness requires you being self-aware, right? And recognizing where you are and what you're doing in that present moment, right? It's like meditation, right? That's what meditation is. It's focusing on the now moment, right? And sometimes being aware of your surroundings, right? Take some time and be aware of what's going on, right? What's happening in the room where you're sitting? What parts of your body are making contact with the chair, right? When you meditate, I don't know if you do meditate, some of you may or may not, but a lot of it is, being aware of where there's tension in your body and breathing through it, and letting that relax, right? It's just that awareness, right? And, if you're sitting down, being aware of what parts of you are making contact with your chair or the desk or the table, right? The articles of clothing that you're wearing, what do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? Right? And have you been reading or digesting the words that are on the page in front of you if you're reading a book or something, right? Or if again, your brain is constantly trying to multitask and have these, whatever they say, 30,000 thoughts a day that you have that are mostly just repeat, right? You're thinking the same thing over and over. We're not that sharp. Right? So just being aware of it and, recognizing maybe you've been distracted by some other things, right? Just having that self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Especially if you know that you get distracted easily and have trouble staying like in the present at the moment, definitely highly recommend, like Jay mentioned, you can try meditation. There are workshops actually based on mindfulness, how to stay mindful of your current thoughts. There's YouTubes that help. There's obviously just, for me in the mornings, I have my devotion, right? I get centered, I read my Bible, I pray, and I just calm myself for the day and start my tasks. So all of those kind of things will help you, be focused in the moment. It's going to make you, aware of your surroundings and thoughts all day long, and on the same note, like Jay mentioned earlier, you need to be aware of your environment, but you need to control it as much as possible. So, and what I mean by that is try to find a place where the distractions are minimal. They're not going to creep up on you. Maybe you don't have a huge window with a bunch of heavy traffic and people walking by or something, right? Where you're going to get distracted or maybe start daydreaming. You'll learn to be aware of your thoughts, and you'll see distractions coming, from a mile away. So, if that's a problem for you, then you can change your environment and it'll help you shut down those distractions before they happen.
Yeah. I just thought of this, like David and I we trade together in the morning, right? My wife leaves like every morning in the middle of our trading, right? And I'm not going to let my wife leave for the day without me saying goodbye and giving her a kiss. That's like my only distraction. My wife knows that I'm trading, right? She comes in, like she kind of peeks around the corner to see like if I'm talking, because David's on Zoom, right? She can hear him, and she'll whisper to me or whatever, I'm leaving, and I'll give her a kiss, but she knows that's my trading time, right? So just, again, it's setting up your environment, right? David's not going to get on a trade with me if he's got to watch 5 kids, right? Because his wife's doing something that day, right? It's just not going to happen. You have to understand that those things are coming. Yeah. So anyway, tip number 4 is holding yourself accountable, right? So schedules work because they give you an idea of what's coming up, right? You have to plan ahead, right? And they also give you a goal, right? It could be a goal could be what's on your schedule, or it could be the steps that lead to that, right? And when you see that it's 2:30 and you know that you have another half hour left to complete that particular block of time, that assignment, then you know that you can ramp up your focus, right? Because you're going to be done in 30 minutes. Or maybe you give yourself a little bit of slack, knowing, I think this is only about 20 minutes worth of work and I got a half an hour, right? Whatever it is, if you've scheduled your time out in those blocks and you understand how much time you have, then you can kind of control how much slack or how much pressure you need to put yourself under, right? And everybody works at different paces. We understand that. But if you want to be really productive, you have to find the pace that works for you, right? And it's not always a frantic under the gun pace, right? That's not going to be great for you. That's another thing. I like my smartwatch is so cool. Like it tells me like just based on your heart rate and how much sleep you got and all these other things, it says you have this much energy, right? You have this much stress going on right now. Maybe you should do some breathing exercises, and it gives you a breathing exercise. It's freaking amazing. I love it.
It's pretty cool. So, but yeah, like, just what Jay was saying, as you create your schedule, don't jam pack it so full that you don't have any time to do anything else, right? You need to actually put some time in there to make some notes, especially in the beginning. You might not need to do this forever, but in the beginning, when you're trying to be productive and you're trying to get a schedule down, put some time in there to actually jot down some notes. Like, what time did you feel tired? So you can kind of know that's going to come, that afternoon lull, right? Or what helped you focus? Maybe what distracted you, during the day. You'll probably start to notice patterns, of course, after a couple of days, you'll kind of, have an idea of what's going to happen and how to, benefit and avoid certain things. Right. So you may, like you said, maybe feel always tired in the afternoon, or maybe feel better on days that you do yoga in the morning or something like that. So those are all things that you're going to be able to find out about yourself by jotting down those notes. And once you recognize it, you'll feel, you'll feel most productive when you have those tools. And you can start to create a schedule around those things that make you more productive.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's almost like your trading journal, right? Like, it's like, if you think about it like trading, right? The things that work for you, right? You start to recognize those things and set yourself up for success in that same way. So I also want to just mention Kathy in the comments, Kathy Manson said the Pomodoro, and she broke it out. I didn't break it down for you guys like what it is. It's 25 minutes of work, 5-minute break. And then after a couple hours, those breaks get longer, right? You can go Google it. It's just a technique for focusing and scheduling your time. You can look it up. It's Pomodoro. It's Pomodora. But she has it in the notes there. But if you're not all in the same group, you might not see her comments. So anyway, So tip number 5 is positive validation, right? So did you accomplish your first task of the day, right? In the time that you allotted for yourself to do it. If you did, congratulations, right? That's good stuff, right? And it's good that you did it. Make sure you take a moment to cross that off your list, right? I've joked about it before. Like, I'm the guy that puts stuff on my list I've already done because I want to check it off, right? That's not super productive. I understand. That's just my personality, right? But it's just like a mini kudo to yourself, right? Like, I did it, right? I did that. And the more that you do that, that becomes behavioral as well, right? That you get to check that stuff off, right? And pat yourself on the back. So that positive validation can train you and your brain to chase anything, right? It can make you be more productive. It can be, you can make these productive habits that you didn't have, right? Or laser beam your focus in on something, right? And we said at the beginning, like, there's one school of thought that says you can't change that, right? You're born with this temperament. This is how you are. But there's also something to do to be said for plasticity, right? And your brain being able to be moldable based on what you're exposing it to, right? So just use that basic conditioning to reward yourself, right? See your brain as naturally seeking rewards, right? It does. Everybody wants to be appreciated, recognized, feel good, right? And you can do that for yourself. And we've said it before, like, your brain is sole purpose, right, is to protect you from pain, right? It's trying to protect you from pain. Your subconscious gets in the way to hide things from you that could be painful. You don't even know they're happening. But it's the same thing for pleasure, right? It's looking for pleasure and keeping you from pain, so you can rewire your brain to be more productive and reward yourself, to do the things that you want, right? To crave productivity, to look for a full day of accomplishments, right? To have affirmations and positive validations in your life from getting those things done.
Yep, absolutely. Show your brain that you truly want to cross those things off your list. That you want to stay healthy. Maybe you want to build wealth, or do whatever it is that you actually want to do. You'll start thinking about, the fun things that you want to do with being this, productive person. Your brain will automatically start looking for things to work on. I know it's kind of weird and kind of hard to explain, but you should definitely try it. You'll see it happening.
Yeah. So number 6 is to visualize your productivity, right? Do you actually see yourself as a productive person, right? Maybe you don't, right? Today's the day to start changing that, right? To start rewiring your brain to change your own attitude about yourself, right? You need to throw out any doubts or memories of, being a lazy person. I saw a joke about being a lazy person. I'll think of it. I'll tell you before we're done, hopefully. Anyway, you don't need to throw out, right, doubts, right? They're still going to be there, but you just have to be aware of them, right? Because today you're going to be a productive person, right? That's just who you are. Got it? Right? You have to just tell yourself that, right? You control how your attitude is, right? You continue to manifest positive thoughts and visualize yourself as a productive person that you want to be. That's the direction you're going to head, right? I'm not saying, like, it's not magic, right? David and I have talked about this before. I'm a big law of attraction person. He's not. But guaranteed, thinking crappy thoughts about you not getting any stuff done that day, that's not going to lead to your being productive, I promise you, right? As opposed to setting goals and being positive about getting them done, right? That's not going to just make them happen either, right? You still got to do your part. I can't remember what book it was, but the guy was talking about how, like, you want to go to Hawaii, right? You don't sit at home and manifest a trip to Hawaii, right? You got to at least get down to the dock and get on the boat. You got to at least do your part, right? You got to get the oars in the water and start moving, right? And then let the universe work on your behalf, right? But you got to do everything you can do, right? You can't just expect it to happen, right? So you need to continue to manifest those positive things. And what I've kind of learned about myself, the best way to stay motivated towards those things is to think about that as just part of my identity, right? I just think I'm a positive person, right? And you might think you're productive, right? Maybe you know that you're going to get a lot of stuff done, and you do, right? And you should tell yourself that, right? Tell yourself that as, like, in the form of an affirmation, right? You need to tell yourself until you start to believe it, until it's just part of your character.
Exactly, because the sooner you believe it, the sooner you're going to be that person that's more productive, and the easier it'll be to sit down schedule your tasks for the day, and actually get them all done. Right. Like you said, having an affirmation written down or on your phone or something like that, where it just says, something along the lines of I'm productive, saying that and keeping it in front of you is going to help you reach this goal of being a productive person. As your brain starts to pick up on this mantra, it's going to continue to focus on that, rewire itself, and you'll be surprised how you start getting stuff done off of your list. Our minds are very fascinating, and they have habits. And so you have to create those positive habits, and certain habits will help you, become more productive. Right. So hopefully you got a lot of value of that. That was our 6 tips for increasing your productivity. Usually these videos aren't going to be this long. Typically they're around 10, we'll try to keep them closer to 10 minutes because we know people are busy and we know attention spans are short. But today was a lot of good information that we really wanted to get across to you. So hopefully you'll bear with us. But and eat tacos and pet dogs. Hashtag tacos and wiggle butts. Jay's new shirt. Awesome. Well, we appreciate it, everybody. We'll make this as short as possible. So we're going to jump off. Hope y'all have an absolutely incredible week. I see a lot of comments. I'm sorry I wasn't able to keep up with all the comments as we went through, but we definitely appreciate every single person that is watching. And I don't know who was asking because it just says Facebook user through StreamYard, but it says, what is this? Go back and watch the front of the video, and that'll explain what these videos are. We're going to start doing them every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. All right, except for next week.
Except for next week.
Other than that, every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, you can bank on us being here and helping you become a better version of yourself. All right. So y'all have a great one. God bless, and we'll see you soon. Bye.